What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Jared from Subway here, back at it again to drop What If Naruto Had the Rinnegan Part 4. Now guys, I'm sorry that I didn't upload a video yesterday, but I was very busy with IRL stuff in school the day before that, so I honestly had like zero time to do like any videos whatsoever. But you already know your boy had to come in and throw some flame at your direction. So obviously we're back with Part 4 to What If Naruto Had the Rinnegan. That being said, today's video is also going to be having a like goal, and we're just going to keep it the same. Keep all the same, just like this series and every other series. Just the same. Copy and paste the like goal. 800 likes, all right? 800 likes, and I'm going to be dropping part 5 to this amazing series. That being said, let's go.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
Okay, so we pick off our story right where we had left off. The 1 month training arc basically had just concluded. Sasuke ended up getting some very solid gains. Rock Lee never ended up getting injured by Gaara. And the first battle, which we will be covering, is going to be Rock Lee versus Sasuke. Now, as soon as this is announced, Rock Lee and Sasuke would both basically proceed to make their way into the arena. Of course, Rock Lee, being the person that he is, like, yes, I knew that I was going to be fighting the Uchiha, and I had prepared, you know, just being like super upbeat and hyped up about the rematch, with Guy Sensei just telling Lee to go break a leg out there, you know what I mean? You know, he would shine a bright smile at Lee, as Lee would just say, "Right, Guy Sensei!" He would then proceed to basically use his speed, as he would body flicker down below, and this is when we would then proceed to have my guy just smiling, thinking back to all his memories with Lee, about all the times that he essentially ended up having, you know, to train Lee, and seeing Lee just honestly push his body to the absolute max in order to get to how far he has come, thinking that he's proud. With Sasuke basically arriving about like 2 minutes after that, because of the fact that he arrived a little late. But seeing as it wasn't as crazy as last time, Sasuke actually ended up arriving just on time. Just like usual, however, he's going to be having like some like paper, what is it called? Some wrist wraps, some wrist wraps, just like in the original with the long hair, as Sasuke would simply arrive with a smirk on his face. Now he would turn towards Lee, as he would say, "You ready?" And Lee would just say, "I am ready, Sasuke Uchiha." You know what I mean? Sorry. It's at this point that we would basically just have Sasuke looking at Lee, as they're both kind of just staring at each other, as this is when, you know, the proctor, the person who's basically in charge of looking after them, would say, "Go." Immediately, Sasuke and Lee would rush at each other, as they would start, you know, taking it slow just to gauge each other's power. Sasuke's not using the Sharingan, and Rock Lee is not really using anything either. They're both just throwing some baseline attacks at each other, dodging, you know, weaving, going all over the place. Sasuke's actually going to be a little stronger than Lee, I'm not gonna lie, because Sasuke's base is just going to be a lot more powerful. So when it comes to the power department, Sasuke's blows and strikes are more calculated, and they just have far more power filled into them because he's just a smarter fighter. And so Lee would be able to dodge based on experience. So they would kind of just be clashing with each other, and we would just be having Rock Lee throwing a punch. So Sasuke would weave, throw another. Rock Lee would dodge it, maybe counter it with another strike, and they would honestly just be landing a couple blows here and there. This is when Sasuke and Lee would turn towards each other, as they would jump back, and they would then proceed to basically say, "I see you've gotten stronger," as each one of them is just acknowledging this about each other, and they would both proceed to rush back in towards the center where they would both begin to rush in at each other, as they would essentially like activate, with Sasuke activating his one Tomoe Sharingan in all both eyes, and Lee essentially taking off his weights and activating the second gate. Now when Lee takes off his weights and all the crowd is finally able to see this, the crowd would just be like, "What? Like, what is some weights gonna do?" As they would be shocked, because the weight of Lee's weights this time would have actually tripled in weight, and Lee was fighting with that on himself. Sasuke wasn't even using weights because he knew that if he was to use weights, he would have been slowed down with his movements, which is another reason as to why he was fighting with Lee, like more keeping more up to base with him. That being said though, Sasuke, even with Lee taking off the weights, after Sasuke activated the Sharingan, Sasuke would be able to dodge Lee and read him like a book. So every throw and kick that Lee would send his way after Lee would just say leave hurricane would be immediately countered by one of Sasuke's attacks. We would have a very similar fight to the one with Obito and Kakashi, where they're throwing blows. Sasuke's taking out a kunai, trying to cut at Lee. Lee would dodge, basically end up kicking it up in the air, grabbing it himself, throwing it at the ground. Sasuke would rush at Lee once again, and you know, the cycle would honestly just continue with them both going back and forth. However, Sasuke at the end of every single attack would always manage to land a blow. Rock Lee would be using his first gate at this point, and this is when slightly the tables would begin to turn, as Lee is able to slightly counter Sasuke more. This is when Lee would kick Sasuke back, as he would do a backflip and throw a bunch of shuriken right at Sasuke. Because, you know, he can't use ninjutsu or genjutsu, but he can use taijutsu, and you know, shuriken throwing isn't no ninjutsu. So that being said, or is it? I'm pretty sure it's not. If it is, then sorry, but I guess. But yeah, anyways, Rock Lee would essentially go back as Sasuke would just look at Lee, and this is when we would essentially proceed to have Lee open the third gate, saying second gate open, as Sasuke would just feel the immense aura going off of Lee. Lee would look at Sasuke and say, I need more, as he would say third gate open. Memories would begin to flash into Lee's head about all the training that he's done during the 1 month training, as well as ever since he was a kid with his father. Just kind of like, no, not his father, that's my guy, but he would just think about how hard he's trained to get to where he's at. And this is when those memories flashing in through his head would cause Lee to awaken the third gate. After this, he would blitz at Sasuke, kicking him right in the head as Sasuke gets flung into the wall. Sasuke would then get up as he dusts himself off in pain and says, alright, I guess it's about time we got serious. Immediately, Sasuke would awaken the 3 Tomoe Sharingan in both eyes as Sasuke would blitz right at Rock Lee, and this is when the fight would begin to be so intense that many of the villagers can't even keep up. At this point, Sasuke would throw a Lion's Barrage kick, similar to that Rock Lee uses, as Rock Lee would throw a Leave Hurricane, as you know, their legs would clash. Immediately, both of them would look at each other as they basically just jump back, rush in at each other, as they were both actually grabbing like kunais, and they would begin to fight with it, as Lee is actually showing some very good skills and, you know, with the kunai that he's using. So Sasuke would just begin to essentially just push in, using all of the abilities that he has access to, as both of them would honestly just be going back and forth with each other. This is when Lee would proceed to jump back as he would say, fourth gate open, and you know, the fight would start changing tides very, very quickly. It's at this point that Lee starts landing more and more blows on Sasuke than he can perceive, and Sasuke would start going on the losing end. This is when Rock Lee would kick Sasuke away into a wall once again, as he would then proceed to essentially kick him up into the sky. Sasuke would then proceed to be put into the hidden lotus, as he would proceed to wrap him around with the wrist wraps, you know what I mean? As he would start spinning, and in an instant, Rock Lee would still have the same fate that he suffered to Gaara. He would flinch as Sasuke would have just enough time to use the substitution jutsu, getting out of there. Sasuke would then be at the top of the arena where he at first charged as Chidori at, as Sasuke would jump up there and say, Chidori! Immediately, as soon as Rock Lee slams Sasuke into the ground, as he thought, it would turn into like water. Or no, a shat, it would just poof into nothing. As Lee would be shocked and but he would look up as he would just see Sasuke like rushing at him as fast as he possibly could, as Lee would not have enough time to react, open any gates, nothing. And so what Lee would do is simply look at Sasuke, as Sasuke would proceed to essentially pierce it straight into Lee's gut area. As Lee would look up at Sasuke, Lee would just kind of like have like a stare as he would grab onto Sasuke's arm and say, I will not lose. You hear me, Sasuke? As we would just basically have Lee ripping Sasuke's arm out, as he would get back into his fighting position and say, fourth gate! No, he would say fifth gate! As before he can even open it, Guy would step in front of Lee, as he would say, that's enough. As it's at this point that we would just basically have Sasuke like standing there, honestly not like ready to believe the fact that Lee was going to be going so far as to open the 5th gate. That was Lee's peak. And if I'm being honest, guys, had Lee actually been able to tap into the 5th gate, he would have obliterated Sasuke. Like, it would not have been funny. The fact that Sasuke was able to land that Chidori was honestly just plot armor on my part, and that's just the way that I wanted this fight to play out. So after this, Lee would be taken in, as he would honestly be in very bad condition because he had a Chidori pierce in point blank range, you know what I mean? So it's like he's in pretty bad condition, and he's being healed up by medical ninjas in a pretty critical state. Sasuke would be declared the winner, as he would simply think that that fight could have gone a whole nother way if Lee was to have tapped into the power of the 5th gate. Sasuke, thinking this, would hit the ground, as he would say he's still not strong enough. As after this, we would have the next battle go, as it would be Neji versus Hinata Hyuga. Now, what would essentially happen is that Hinata simply was not able to keep up with Neji. Like, I don't want to hear anything. Hinata gets stomped by Neji. This time it's a much closer fight, but Neji, being the person that he is still able to ultimately defeat Hinata. And on to the 3rd match, which would essentially be Naruto versus Gaara. Now, as soon as this battle starts, Naruto would essentially like land on the ground, as using, he would basically lift his hand, as the Kusanagi blade would just lift up into the air. If you guys have ever seen 7 Deadly Sins, then you guys will understand what I'm about to do. Naruto would just kind of hold his hand up until, the proctor would say it's time to begin. Now, Gaara, as soon as he sees the blade in the air, he wouldn't really flinch. Like, he would not be worried at all. But this is when Naruto would kind of weave his hand down, as the sand would come in and it would try to protect him at the right spot, but the blade would quite literally turn behind Gaara. Like, it spins in midair, because Naruto uses telekinesis. He saw it coming, and it pierces Gaara straight in his right leg on the calf, no, not the calf muscle, but like the hamstring, like around the hamstring area, right? It pierces into like his thigh area from the back, obviously, and we would then basically proceed to have Gaara like looking at his blood, as he's like, this is my blood, you know what I mean? He screams out in pain, as he would then proceed to essentially start going into his almost transformed state, as he actually got pierced pretty badly. Not only that, but Naruto like literally put it in the entire way. Like, it didn't go halfway in, it didn't like kind of pierce, it went in all the way. So Gaara like just falls onto one leg, as the half Shukaku state would come in, and that leg would just be covered by nothing but sand. Naruto, seeing this, would decide that this is going to be too big of a threat to simply just be laying around. So what Naruto would do is essentially using the Chubaku Tensei, I think it is the move where he essentially creates a black orb that sucks everything into it, would do just that. As Gaara would be sucked into this hole where he's simply trying to claw his way out, but seeing as a Four Tails state Naruto couldn't do that, then I doubt that even a Gaara in the first, the state of Shukaku with the tail and all that stuff will be able to. He would be consumed by the gigantic boulder that would be building up in the sky, and a bunch of ninja would actually be having to hold on to things for them not to float up as well. A bunch of objects and debris and dirt would just start floating into the air, as pieces of the stadium would also rise, with Naruto crushing the ball for Gaara to essentially be hurt so bad that he's just completely out of commission. Naruto would then proceed to dispel the jutsu, as like the orb would just fall straight into the stadium, and Gaara's body would just be laying there in the rubble. Naruto would basically use his levitation ability to have the Kusanagi blade spin in midair, as he would then cause it to basically slam down, as it would slam right next to Gaara, who was barely clinging to life. As it's at this point that Naruto would walk over to him and ask him why he thinks that killing somebody is the only way to, be happy. As Gaara would just look at him and say that, he wouldn't understand the pain of a Jinchuriki. With Kurama actually speaking to Gaara, like telepathically, of course, saying he does know. He would use obviously Kurama's voice would be a lot raspier and deeper, so it would go something more like this. Naruto does know. Okay, I can't even do the voice. Sorry, I'm sorry. I should have never attempted that. I'm doing a very huge disservice and dishonor to my boy Kurama. So obviously we would basically have Kurama tell him that he understands the pain, that he's the Nine Tails Jinchuriki, maybe the most hated of them all, as it's at this point that Gaara would look up into the stands and see the stares that people are giving Naruto, the angry, fearful looks, as Gaara would say that you must be lucky to actually have a good relationship with your tailed beast. It's at this point that Naruto would say that Kurama actually hates the One Tails, but he doesn't have to hate Gaara. He would extend one hand out as Gaara would just take the hand, and Shukaku within him would say, no, no! Like there's no way you're teaming up with the Nine Tails Fox, you know what I mean? But Shukaku really has no say, and it's at this point that he would be taken away by, both of the brothers. It's at this point that, seeing all of this commotion, we essentially have the ninjas who were, obviously going to start the raid, would begin to cast their jutsus. As it's at this point that the battle between, or actually, no, that doesn't happen. The literal entire Konoha attack thing does not even happen in this version, because I completely forgot, but Orochimaru was already handled. So that's why when Gaara, did all that stuff, nobody ended up getting knocked out. I wrote that in the script and I still managed to completely let that slip. Oh my god, the fact that happened. But no, yeah, nothing ends up happening, and afterwards, we would essentially then have the next couple of battles. The next battle would basically be a three-way one for all. No, a three-way fight with all of them in it. Okay, it's basically like a gigantic brawl where it's going to be Naruto, Sasuke, and Neji. All right, as soon as this battle is announced, we would have Sasuke and Naruto looking at Neji as they're just like, get out, bro, the door. It's right there, bro. Like, you don't even want to do this for yourself. The door's right there. Neji would look at both of them as he would say that he's gonna prove them both wrong, as immediately Naruto quite literally just proceeds to say, alright, since you don't want to move, he would use his pull ability, as it's at this point that Neji would just get sucked in, having no way to react. Naruto would create a Rasengan as he would shove it into Neji's stomach, and Neji would just cough out blood as Neji just falls onto the ground, and Naruto then turns to Sasuke asking how far he's came. Sasuke would basically rush away as he would say, I'm gonna end it all in one attack, as everybody in the crowd would be watching, cheering for the Uchiha kid, with some people saying that damn Naruto should die already, and people would start cheering, kill him. And this is when Sasuke would say, Chidori, saying, Naruto, you better live through this, as Naruto would simply smile. And when Sasuke charges at him, Naruto would just smirk as he uses one of the flying Raijin marks that was previously on Sasuke to teleport right behind him. And in an attack so similar to Minato's attack against Obito or the Masked Man, we would have a scene so reminiscent where Naruto slams the Rasengan right into the back of Sasuke, causing Sasuke to get completely and utterly decimated. Sasuke is destroyed as he just falls into the ground, and Naruto is declared the winner. Immediately, Naruto is told by Hiruzen that he's going to be becoming a Chunin, as Naruto would simply just accept this, half-assed praise from Hiruzen, seeing as it's not heartfelt, it's not real praise, because Hiruzen doesn't even like Naruto to begin with. So it's just like fake. It's just so clearly fake. But Naruto nonetheless still sits there and just accepts the praise either way. This is where we're basically just going to jump into what happens with the Sound 4. Well, since Orochimaru is, resting in peace, they don't actually end up trying to come take Sasuke, because that's the goal that Orochimaru wanted. Kabuto, seeing this, would flee from the mission, and we would never have that cool encounter with Kakashi and Kabuto. So instead, what essentially ends up happening is that, Jiraiya is obviously offered the position of being the Hokage, but seeing as Jiraiya doesn't exactly want to become a Hokage, he simply just ends up stating that maybe Tsunade might be the Hokage, but seeing as during these times they're not exactly in dire need of a Hokage, Tsunade isn't even called towards the village. That being said, Naruto and Sasuke, actually both of them, end up embarking on a 3-year quest journey to get stronger, with the main goal actually not being to actually make Naruto stronger, but to make Sasuke stronger. And when they come back, I'm going to tell you right now, when they come back, they are going to be broken. Sasuke, when he returns to the village, is going to be having the ability of the Mangekyo Sharingan. And many of you guys might be wondering, how would he even do this? There's no way that this could even happen. Well, during the time that they were on their 3-year quest, after 2 years were over, Sasuke decided that enough was enough and that he was going to be facing his brother Itachi. Because at this point, the 3 Tomoe Sharingan had already been perfected. Naruto already taught him all 5 chakra natures. He got way better at swordsman skills, with Naruto actually gifting him the Kusanagi blade. Sasuke ended up just developing his skills as a ninja so far that it just was like more even than it was in the original, if that makes sense. You know how much originally Itachi most likely had to like hold back against the fight with Sasuke? Because if he didn't hold back, then Sasuke would have been destroyed. Instead, Itachi actually had to try all out, but that battle is not going to be covered on this version. Nope. You guys, if you guys want to find out anything about that battle, are actually going to have to tune in for part 5 of What If Naruto Had the Rinnegan. This is where we're going to be leaving this off. Actually, I said I was going to tell you guys more about what their power upgrades were going to be like, but instead, I think I'm going to save Naruto's upgrades until the next part of What If Naruto Had the Rinnegan. If you guys enjoyed today's video, then please go down below and smash the like goal of 800 likes if you guys want a part 5. And once you do, I'm going to be dropping the finale to What If Naruto Had the Rinnegan. I'm still thinking whether I should drop it in a one part format, or whether I should simply make it an entire compilation of parts with the finale being added at the end and a timestamp at the beginning telling you guys where to go to for the finale. That being said though, when I do decide, I'm going to be posting it on my community tab so you guys can all know. But with that being said, it has been your boy Zether. I love each and every single one of you guys, and I am out. Peace.